Hello, and welcome to the Murder House Radio Show. I'm your host, X. On this show, we will be covering serial killers, mass shooters, disappearances, true crime, and the most deplorable things and people in history. All that good, dark stuff. The Murder House Radio Show will be a radio show / podcast. I'll be uploading videos every Friday at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Once you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification and select all to get all notifications if you are viewing on YouTube. And hit follow if you are listening on a podcasting platform. So sit down, get comfortable, grab some coffee or whatever your preferred beverage is, turn off the lights, and enjoy the show. Hey guys, how was your Friday? Hope it was good. My day today when I'm recording this is it's all good. It's a little busier than usual. Same with the last couple days, which is good. I'm not complaining about that. Actually got out and did a lot more stuff than I've usually been doing, so I didn't get the chance to record this on Friday like I normally would, so I'm recording it Saturday at like 4:23. But yeah, I hope your Friday's going good, and I hope you had a good month. So yeah, also if you would like to ask for some advice, like my advice on whatever to be covered at the end of each podcast / broadcast, email it to the podcast email. It'll be in the description below. Also, leave suggestions for future episodes in the comments. But yeah, without any further ado, other than this right here, the sources will be in the description below, so go check those out to get more of the full picture, because I may leave details out. But yeah, now for real, without any further ado, let's get in to today's episode. Today's episode will be on Richard Ramirez, full name Ricardo Leyva Munjo Ramirez. That's a fucking mouthful right there. Holy shit. Born February 29th, 1960. And yeah, we all know who Richard Ramirez is. But for those of you who don't, here's a little recap. Known as Richard Ramirez, he's an American serial killer, serial rapist, kidnapper, and pedophile. Oof. And burglar. His highly publicized home invasion and murder crime spree terrorized the residents of greater Los Angeles area. So like the Los Angeles area in general word. And later the residents of San Francisco Bay Area. And his crime spree took place from June 1984 until August 1985. And prior to his capture, Ramirez was dubbed the Valley Intruder. Interesting. Fair enough. And the Night Stalker, but there was an original Night Stalker. I forget who it was. I think it was Joseph D'Angelo, if I'm not mistaken. Joseph D'Angelo was the original Night Stalker, I'm pretty sure. But Ramirez used a wide variety of weapons, including handguns, knives, machetes, and tire irons, and hammers, as well as... What? Okay. So he used all those in his attacks for his killings, as well as satanic imagery, okay. Ramirez never expressed any remorse for his deeds, and the judge who upheld Ramirez's 19 death sentences, oh shit, so he's sentenced to 19 death sentences, Jesus Christ, remarked that his deeds exhibit cruelty, callousness, and viciousness beyond any human understanding. Well, shit. Ramirez was convicted in 1989 of 13 counts of murder and 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. He died of complications from B-cell lymphoma while awaiting execution in California. So there's that. I'm just gonna say it now. My mind's all over the place, I guess. It's fucking hard to focus and shit. ADHD things at its finest. I don't know if it's overworked. I don't know what it is. But if yeah, so just a heads up if shit just starts making no sense, but if it makes really no sense, I'll fucking say it over again. But if I'm out here struggling to fucking read bullshit, that's why. But yeah, so let's delve in deeper into his life, starting with his early life and all that stuff. So Richard Ramirez was born in El Paso, Texas on February 29th, 1960. He was the youngest of Juliana and Mercedes Ramirez. Word. He was the youngest of 5 children. His father, Julian, a Mexican national and former, forgive me with these Spanish pronunciations, Ciudad Juarez policeman. Oh shit, so he's seen some shit. Who later became a laborer on an Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe railway. So he's a railway worker. Word. He was prone to fits of anger that often resulted in physical abuse. Oh shite. So at 12 years old, Richard was known to his family as it was known to his family that he was strongly influenced by his older cousin. Yes, his older cousin was a Vietnam War vet in a Green Beret who would boast about his gruesome adventures and abuses during the Vietnam War to Ramirez. So yeah, he would share photos of his victims, and this is his cousin, and this has included Vietnamese women he had raped. In some of the photos, Mike posed with the severed heads of women he had abused. Richard, who had began smoking marijuana at the age of 10, bonded with Mike over joints and gory war stories. So it sounds like his cousin right here is the one who really kicked it off for him to become a serial killer, really. Mike taught his young cousin some of his military skills, such as killing with stealth. Around this time, Richard began to seek escape from his father's violent temper by sleeping in local graveyards. Well, shit. Ramirez was present on May 4th, 1973, when his cousin Mike fatally shot his wife. So he watched his cousin shoot his wife. So he shot his wife Jessie in the face during a argument, a domestic argument. Well, shit. And after the shooting, Richard became sullen and withdrawn from his family and peers. Interesting. Later on that year, Richard moved in with his older sister Ruth and her husband Roberto. And Roberto was a peeping Tom, and he would take Richard with him to do his peeping. And Ramirez also began using acid, LSD, and cultivated an interest in Satanism. Yeah, Satanism gets a bad rep. If you actually look into it, it's actually pretty interesting. So Mike was found not guilty on Jesse's murder by reason of insanity, and he was released in 1977 after 4 years of incarceration at the Texas State Mental Hospital. Well, shit. PTSD is a crazy thing, but he's already fucked up when he was in the military, but so his influence over Ramirez continued on because he was obviously released. When Richard Ramirez was in his adolescence, Richard became his Bergengoing. what? Beginning sexual fantasies with violence. So I'm guessing that just means he started to develop his violent sexual fantasies, including forced bondage and rape. Oh shit. There's actually whole communities based on rape fetishes. Like people make up these scenarios, these elaborate scenarios where they basically get consensually raped, bro. It's whack. But yeah, it's something to look into, man. It's fucking wild. But while still in school, he took a job at a local Holiday Inn where he used his all access key to rob sleeping customers. His employment ended after Richard attempted to rape a woman in her hotel room. Shite. Um, Before her husband returned to find them. Oh shit. Although the husband beat Richard senseless at the scene, criminal charges were dropped when the couple who lived out of state didn't want to return to testify against him. And Ramirez dropped out of Jefferson High School in the ninth grade. Well, shit. So at the age of 22, he moved to California, where he stayed permanently. So that's a little breakdown of his early life. So let's get into his murders and his crime spree. It says here on April 10th, which is today, the date I'm recording this. well, shit. April 10th, 1984, Richard Ramirez murdered 9-year-old Chinese American Mei Lung in the basement of the hotel where he was living. Well, shit. I wonder if that was the Cecil Hotel, because he was said to have stayed there quite a bit. In the Tenderloin District of San Francisco. Interesting. He raped and beat the girl before stabbing her to death and hanging her body from a pipe. Jesus Christ, that's extra. Holy fuck. Um, this is his first known kill, but was not identified as being connected to the subsequent crime spree until 2009. When Ramirez's DNA was matched to a sample obtained at this crime scene. Word. In 2016, officials disclosed evidence of a second suspect identified through a DNA sample retrieved from the scene who is believed to have been present at the Leung's murder. Authorities have not publicized the identity of that suspect, but described as being juvenile at the time. So it may have been a juvenile who was with them, word. And have not brought any charges due to the lack of evidence. Well, shit. So, there's that. There is that. So, and then there is a list of his crimes. The list is 18 long. But, oh, these are all the murders. So, well, shit. So, okay, so all the victims here, I'll just read them off right quick. You'll have to forgive me for these pronunciations, so bear with me. So it says June 28th, 1984, Janine Vincao, March 17th, 1985, Maria Hernandez, and Delia Dayle, Yoshi Okazaki, March 17th, 1985, Tiza Lynn Victoria Yu, Vincent and Maxine Zara, Bill and Linda Doy, Mabel May Bell and Florence Natty Lang, Carol Kyle and her 11-year-old son, Mary Lewis Cannon, Whitney Benetta, Joyce Nelson, Sophie Dickman, Layla and Maxon Kedding, so maybe siblings or some shit right there. Oh shit. Chanogoring and Samkid Kovath and their 8-year-old son. Since a lot of these are complicated names, you guys can go check out this list, but I will continue. I ain't no quitter. Chris and Virginia Peterson, Sakina and Eliza Abelworth, and their 3-year-old son. Jeez. Peter and Barbara Pan, James Ramiro Jr. and family. Jesus Christ. Bill Carnes and Ines Erickson. So there is all that. You'll have to forgive me. It says these are all his victims, but it gives the locations as well. And they're all in they're all in Los Angeles, but the last 3. So the Peter and Barbara Pan are in San Francisco, and then the last 2 are in Orange County. So Hernandez survived the attack, and then I'm pretty sure the next 2 were dead. Linda survived the attack, and then it says here for the number 6 listing, both survived the attack, but Bella later died of her injuries. Both survived the attack, didn't survive. Whitney Bennett survived. Sophie Dickman survived. Psalm Kid and son survived attack. Chris and Virginia Peterson both survived. Sackins and son survived attack. Barbara survived attack. Aborted attack, no injuries. So this is James Ramiro Jr. and family word. And then the last ones I said both survived the attack. If that wasn't very clear and you want to see more about it, you can go check the links in the description and you'll find it. So, and then it goes on to list all of these attacks. So it says here the first one. I'm not going over all of these, but it says here the first one on June 28th, 1984, 79-year-old Janine Vincow was found brutally murdered in her apartment in Glassell Park, Los Angeles. She had been stabbed repeatedly in her sleep, in her bed, and her throat slashed so deeply that she was nearly beheaded, and Ramirez fingerprints were found on a mesh screen he had removed to gain entrance through an open window. Well, shit. And then on March 17th, 1985, Ramirez attacked 22-year-old Marie Hernandez outside her home in Rosemead, California, shooting her in the face with a .22 caliber handgun after she pulled into her garage. Jeez. She survived when the bullet ricocheted off the keys she had held in her hands as she lifted them to protect herself. That's lucky. Inside the house, her roommate, Dale Yoshi Okazai, aged 34, heard the gunshot and ducked behind the counter when she saw Ramirez enter the kitchen. When she raised her head, he shot her once in the forehead, killing her. Well, shit. Within an hour of the Rosemead home invasion, Ramirez pulled 30-year-old Tazi Lane Victoria Yu out of her car, so he carjacked her in Monterey Park, shot her twice with a .22 caliber handgun, and left. She was pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital. The 2 murders, an attempted third, in a single day attracted extensive coverage from the news media. No shit, but that all happened in one day, god damn. So they dubbed the attacker, described as a curly hair man with bulging eyes and wide spaces and rotting teeth, the walk-in killer and valley intruder. Well, shit. So there are the first few. And then on March 27th, 1985, Ramirez entered a home that he had burglarized a year earlier just outside Whiter, California. Whittier, at approximately 2 a.m. and killed the sleeping Vincent Charles Zazar, age 64, with a shot to the head from his 22 caliber handgun. Zazar's wife, Maxine Lavinera Zazar, age 44, was awakened by the gunshot, and Ramirez beat her and bound her hands while demanding to know where her valuables were. While he ransacked the room, Maxine escaped her bonds and retrieved a shotgun from underneath the bed, which was not loaded. Oof. And this infuriated Ramirez, and he shot her 3 times with the 22, then fetched a large carving knife from the kitchen. Oh shit. He mutilated the body by stabbing her several times, then gouging her eyes out and placing them in a jewelry box which he left with. Well, shit, so he took her eyes. The autopsy determined that the mutilations were post-mortem, so at least she was dead. Vincent and Maxine's bodies were discovered by their son, Peter. Ooh, shit, that would suck. Ramirez left footprints from a pair of Avia sneakers in the flower beds, which the police photographed and casted. This was virtually the only evidence that the police had at the time. Well, shit. Bullets found at the scene were matched to those found at a previous attacks. And the police determined that that there was a serial killer at large. Well, that's a lot to take in. Holy shite. Holy shite. So far we have about about 4 or 5 dead so far. And then it says on May 14th, 1985, Ramirez returned to Monterey Park and entered the home of Bill Doi, age 66, and Bill Doi, D-O-I, and his disabled wife, Linnea, Lillian, age 56. Surprising Doi in his bedroom, Ramirez shot him in the face with his 22 caliber semi-automatic pistol as Doi went for his own gun. After beating the mortally wounded man into unconsciousness, Richard entered Linnea's bedroom, bound her with thumb cuffs. What the fuck are thumb cuffs? And then he raped her after he had ransacked the home for valuables. Well, shit. The man died from his injuries in the hospital. On the night of May 29th, 1985, Richard drove a stolen car to Monrovia and stopped at the house of Mabel May Bell, aged 83, and her disabled sister. Yo, he's only targeting old people, it seems. Old and, yeah, I don't know. And her disabled sister Florence Natia Lang, age 81. Finding a hammer in the kitchen, he bludgeoned and bound Lang in her bedroom, then bound and bludgeoned Bella before using an electrical cord to shock the women. After raping Lang, he used Bella's lipstick to draw the satanic pentagram symbol on her thigh, as well as on the walls of both bedrooms. The women were found 2 days later, alive but comatose. Belle later died of her injuries. Well, shite. And then the next day, he drove the same car to Burbank and sneaking into the home of Carol Kyle, age 42. At gunpoint, he bound Kyle and her 11-year-old son with handcuffs and ransacked the house. He released Kyle to direct him to where the family valuables were. He then raped her repeatedly. Ramirez also repeatedly ordered her not to look at him, telling her at one point he would cut her eyes out. He fled the scene after retrieving the child from the closet and binding the two together, again with handcuffs. So there is that, and it all goes on the same from here. A bunch of more rapes, murders, and burglaries. All the way until... August 30th, 1985. So Ramirez finally became identified after Erickson gave a detailed description of the assailant to investigators, and police obtained a cast of Ramirez's footprint from the Romeo house. The stolen car was found abandoned on August 28th in Wilshire Center, Los Angeles, and police obtained a single fingerprint from the rear view mirror, despite Ramirez's careful efforts to wipe the car clean of his prints. The print was positively identified to belong to Ramirez, who was described as a 25-year-old drifter from Texas with a long rap sheet that included many arrests for traffic and illegal drug violations. And on the 29th of August, 1985, law enforcement officials decided to release a mugshot of Ramirez from a 1984 arrest for auto theft. And this was to the media. And the Night Stalker finally was revealed, so they put a face to the monster. And then at a police press conference, it was announced, "We know who you are now, and soon everybody else will. There will be no place you can hide." Oh shit. And then there are other suspected victims. On the night of June 27th, 1985, 32-year-old Patty Elaine Higgins was murdered in her Arcadia home. The crime was not discovered until July 2nd, when she did not show up for work. Her attacker had sodomized her, strangled her, and slashed her throat. Ramirez was charged with the murder and burglary in relation to the Higgins murder. However, the charges against him in this case were eventually dropped due to lack of concrete physical evidence linking him to the crime. Well, shit. And then, as I said, his capture in August 30th, 1985. Ramirez was taking a bus to Tucson, Arizona to visit his brother, and he was unaware he had became lead story in the newspapers, like that they knew it was him and all that stuff. So his face was already all over California. And after failing to meet his brother, he returned to Los Angeles early on the morning of August 31st. He was he walked past a police officer who were staking out bus terminals in hopes of catching him should he attempt to flee on a bus, and so he fled into a convenience store, seeing the police or whatever, trying to figure out his next move and such. And sorry if that made no sense, but you know what I'm trying to say here. I hope. But after being noticed by a group of elderly Mexican women, fearfully identifying him as El Matador, the killer. Well, that's what Matador means. Well, shit. Ramirez saw his face on the front page of the newspaper rack and fled the store in a panic. After running across the Santana Fan Freeway, he attempted to carjack a woman but was chased away by bystanders who pursued him. After hopping over several fences and attempting 2 more carjackings, he was eventually subdued by a group of angry motherfuckers, one of whom had struck him over the head with a metal bar in his pursuit. Fucking A. The group held Richard down and relentlessly beat the living shit out of him until police arrived and arrested him and took him into custody. So there is all of that. So the jury's selection for the trial began on July 22nd, 1988. At his first court appearance, Ramirez raised his hand with a pentagram drawn on it and yelled, "Hail Satan." Well, shit. I always thought that was a tattoo as well, not a drawing, but you know. So on August 3rd, 1988, the Los Angeles Times reported that some jail employees overheard Ramirez planning to shoot the prosecutor with a gun, which Ramirez intended to have smuggled into the courtroom, and consequently a metal detector was placed outside, and intensive searches were conducted on people entering the courtroom. Well, I fucking hope so. And it says on August 14th, the trial was interrupted because one of the jurors did not arrive at the courtroom. Later that day, she was found shot to death in her apartment. The jury was terrified, wondering if Ramirez had somehow directed this hit or whatever from inside his prison cell, and whether or not he could reach the other jurors. It was ultimately determined that Ramirez was not responsible for this death, as she was shot and killed by her boyfriend, who later committed suicide with the same weapon in a hotel. The alternate juror who replaced this juror was too frightened to return to her home. Well, shit. And then on September 20th, 1989, Ramirez was convicted of all his charges. 13 counts of murder, 5 counts of attempted murder, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. During the penalty phase of the trial on November 7th, 1989, he was sentenced to die in California gas chamber. Yeah, that would fucking suck. The gas chamber would suck, man, because, like, you know what's coming, so they're like, breathe in deep, and you're like, fuck that, and you hold your breath as long as you can, you pass out, and that by itself would suck, holding your breath till you pass out, because you know once you breathe in, you're gonna fucking die. Then you pass out, and then you start fucking seizing and seizuring and shit, and you just die slowly and horribly. Which would suck, but he definitely fucking deserves it, because, fuck rapists and shit. And pedophiles, fuck all of them. But, he stated to reporters after the death sentence, "Big deal. Death always went with the territory. See you in Disneyland." Holy. The trial cost $1.8 million, and this is $3.71 million as of 2019. And this at the time was the most expensive trial in California history until it was surpassed by the O.J. Simpson trial in 1994. Well, shit. But yeah, Ramirez also did get a bunch of letters from fangirls and shit and other dudes, along with hate mail, of course. But he also had romantic relationships. By the time of his trial, Ramirez had fans who were writing him letters, and paying him visits. And beginning on 1985, Doreen Leo wrote him nearly 75 letters during his incarceration. Okay, that's not that bad. Throughout the whole incarceration. In 1988, Ramirez proposed to Leo, and on October 3rd, 1996, they were married in California's San Quentin State Prison. For many years, Richard Ramirez's death, before his death word, Leo, Lioy, stated that she would commit suicide when Ramirez was executed. However, Leo eventually left Ramirez in 2009 after DNA confirmed he had raped and murdered 9-year-old Mei Lung. Well, fucking good. At least she wouldn't want to date a pedophile. At least she has some fucking standards. By the time of his death in 2013, Ramirez was engaged to another broad who knew he's a pedophile, obviously, so fuck this bitch too, Christine Lee, at the age of... Oh, she was 23, a 23-year-old writer. Well, shit. I always wonder why all these women are attracted to killers and rapists. Maybe, especially killers who kill women too. Like, maybe it's because they think, like, oh, he could take control of me and he could just snatch my life out just like that, and that's hot. Maybe it's something like that. Like, who actually knows? But, like, yeah. And then it says here on August 7th, 2006, Ramirez's first round of state appeals ended unsuccessfully when the California Supreme Court upheld his convictions and death sentence. On September 7th, 2006, the California Supreme Court denied his request for a rehearing. Ramirez had additional appeals pending until his time of death. Yes. You can have all your appeals and shit, and then I don't know if they motion them for you or what your lawyers do. I think you have to get them motioned yourself with the help of lawyers, of course. But yes, they can't execute you until all your appeals are exhausted. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not a lawyer or anything like that. But yeah. And then let's get into his mental health real quick here. Psychiatrist Michael H. Stone described Ramirez as a made psychopath as opposed to a born psychopath. So he's made into a psychopath. Makes sense. He says that Ramirez's schizoid personality disorder contributed to his indifference to the suffering of his victims and his untreatability. Okay. So he basically said it would be impossible to treat him. I think that's what that means. But Stone also stated that Ramirez was knocked unconscious and almost died on multiple occasions before the age of 6. Jesus. That definitely probably has a rule. And as a result, I later developed temporal lobe epilepsy, aggressivity, and hypersexuality. Yeah. So it's probably the taught psychopathicness and his father's abuse and his father being a dickhead. So those two things and his cousin. So those three things probably had the biggest role in what he became. So then he died of B-cell lymphoma and stuff for complications to that and blah 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 blah. And he died in the hospital and yeah. He had also been affected by chronic substance abuse and chronic hepatitis C viral infection. Well, shit. And he died at 53 years old, and he had been on death row for more than 23 years. By some estimates, he would have been in his early 70s before his execution was carried out, due to the California's lengthy appeal process. See what I mean? Yeah. Like, in some states it's quicker than others, but you can be on death row anywhere from, like, I want to say fucking 10 to like 50 years, man. It's crazy. But yeah, that's his death. And then he has a bunch of documentaries and movies about him. Right here I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. So yeah, that is that. That is that. But yeah, as of this time, there are no emails for advice or anything like that. So yeah, if you have any advice, email it to the email in the description. But yeah, so that is Richard Ramirez. Thank you for listening to this episode on the Murder House Radio Show. I hope you have a good rest of your Friday or whenever you are listening to this. Check out the social medias and the sources in the description below. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Once you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification and select all to get all notifications if you are listening on YouTube. If you are listening on a podcasting platform, hit follow. Leave your suggestions for future episodes in the comments. See you next episode. This is your host X signing off.